To date we can distinguish four main bridgeheads, where the most active actions are developing. These are Zaporizhia, Donetsk and Luhansk regions, as well as the left bank of the Kherson region. And each of these bridgeheads has its own peculiarities. We will talk about them. Zaporizhia region is offensive. Here the defense forces of Ukraine, despite subjective criticism, own the initiative. Earlier I told you why the offensive in the Zaporizhia region is very similar to what happened on the right bank of the Kherson region, and that is how it should be viewed. But the main thing is that the Russian grouping here is already starting to deflate, and at the level of active reserves. While the Ukrainian side continues to operate with a resource of limited functionality, from strength to 15,000 personnel, the Russian command has engaged most of the Group East and pulled up part of the Group Dnipro to counter forces 6 times smaller than their potential at this location. Often voiced dogma about the principles of offensive and defense, for example in the offensive losses are 1 to 3, or even can be 1 to 7, and the rate of wounded and captured. In general, it is time to burn these manuals and scatter the ashes in the wind. The Ukrainian army in the south is demonstrating what will soon become the standard for breaking through maximally fortified areas for generations to come. Just let the AFU finish the job, without tantrums in the deep rear and other shakes of the air. Donetsk bridgehead pleasantly surprised. Of course, it seems that the main location here is Bakhmut, but it is not quite so. Yes, the guys near Bakhmut are doing fantastic things, at the cost of their health and lives, which everyone should remember. But there is a section where the prospect of a break is much clearer, and while the heroic fortress is returned to Ukrainian control, something may happen there. The direction to Staromlinivka allows us to talk about the exhaustion of the Russian counteroffensive resource, despite the fact that since the second half of June the reserve from the second line of defense of the Russians has been concentrated there. And while the Ukrainians in small groups nightmare the occupants along the front line, which exceeds 60 kilometers, the Russians are unable to ensure full security of all occupied territories because of limited resources. So it turns out that Donetsk bridgehead cracks louder than Zaporizhia, but everything is interconnected, and therefore it does not matter who cracks louder, the main thing is who cracks first. And in this case I bet on Zaporizhia region, although I may be wrong. Lyman-Kupiansk axis, or Lugansk and Kharkiv regions. For now, it's just a defensive area. Indeed, the Russians have concentrated serious resources there, but they cannot penetrate Ukrainian defenses. And what's that to say, given that their best potential is concentrated there? In the fall of 2022, I noted that Russian forces are not capable of advancing along a wide front, at most only in a narrow direction, in a single location. That was the case, they were able to advance only in the direction of Bakhmut. Other attempts, including the last ones, failed. The left bank of the Kherson region. Everything is simpler here. We can talk about the fact that on the left bank formed zones of fire impact of the Ukrainian defense forces. Months of artillery duels led to the fact that barrel and rocket artillery was shot every meter of at least 80-kilometer zone from the left bank. But there is a nuance. So far there is not enough resource to cover really every meter, but everything in due time. I would call it the lurking dragon. The Ukrainian command is waiting for the appropriate conditions, under which the development of events will be according to their scenario. Summarizing, we have 2 active, offensive bridgeheads, 1 unpredictable defensive and a lurking dragon. And tell me, in the context of all of the above, who has the initiative in this situation, who plays and leads the game?